Welcome back to the latest edition of the Inside Line IndyCar Podcast presented by the Indy Star. I'm editor Aaron Ferguson, and alongside me once again is Motorsports Insider Zion Brown. Zion, you ready for California?
Yeah, back. I was going to say back on the road. I guess back in the air this week after a couple weeks to stay here in Indy, heading out to Long Beach. I thought about this now with IndyCar, everybody that covers it, and obviously everybody that works in it. We've now been to, once we get to Long Beach, there'll be all the American time zones here in these first whatever it's been 6 weeks. We've been to Mountain Time in Phoenix, Central Time in Birmingham, and in Arlington, Eastern Time in St. Pete, and now we're going to be in Pacific Time.
Mr. Countrywide going all over. That's amazing. Yeah, I am curious to see how this week goes after 2 weeks off track. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating. We'll get to the Long Beach preview in a second, or I guess a few minutes more accurately. But we have some 500 news to discuss. Zion, you wrote a story that posted Wednesday morning about the field possibly not having bumping. Right now, we're at 31 confirmed cars and no Colton Herta. So what are we looking at? My little thing that counts down the days to the 500 says 39. So what are we going to be looking at here in 39 days?
Yeah, and I guess the more interesting question is, like, what are we going to be looking at here in, let me do some quick math here, 31 days, right, when it's that first day of qualifying. But yeah, since we last talked on this podcast, we learned that officially F2 did add that Montreal race and the Miami race, that the Montreal race now interferes with the 500, and Andretti has confirmed that they're going to stick with their 3 cars, which is such a new thing for that team, right? We see them run an extra car every year. Of course, in the past, it was to have Marco Andretti in the race. This year would have been to have Colton Herta in that, I assume would have been that same number 98 car. So really odd to not see that fourth and extra Andretti car. And we're just at an odd place where it's like everybody's at a standstill waiting to see what happens. Last week, I wrote about Prima and how they are still operating in that shop as normal. Maybe not as normal, right? They're obviously not leaving out and going to these races like they were a year ago, but they are still operating in that shop. There's, a few dozen employees that are there and working on cars, but they don't have the financial means or backing right now to actually race. And they, of course, won't be in Long Beach. They won't be doing the Indy GP. And so it's just about, can they get to the 500 and what that would look like? And can they reach an agreement and deal with a new ownership group or a new investor, and then B, get everything sorted with IndyCar, right? It's a 2-step process in that nature, maybe even a 3-step process if that new team or if that new ownership group wants to rebrand the team in time for the 500. I honestly feel like that might not be feasible to do a full rebrand in a month. Basically, like, I think if Prima is out there, it would be under Prima. This is just me speculating, right? I don't know necessarily if a new team would be able to do that, but it's really interesting just the way we're at this standstill, and right now it doesn't feel like we'll get bumping. I think if once we get to that May 15th or that May 16th date for qualifying, I think it'll be exactly 33 cars. And it's just a weird situation where everybody's just kind of waiting around to see what happens, and teams have until Fast Friday on May 15th to submit their late entries. So this could drag out. I don't think it'll drag out all the way to May 15th, but it could drag out to early May potentially. So it's an odd situation, and a situation that, of course, IndyCar doesn't want to be in, but it's one that it's in. We've had similar situations all throughout the last few years, and the Herta thing really threw a wrench in things. Obviously, that would have been the 33rd car. And so then if you had that, you would have obviously known who the 33 were, and then maybe still potentially added one or two. But we don't have that right now, and we don't know where that 33rd entry exactly would come from.
Yeah, and I know I think it's interesting, like, that Doug Boles is so confident that there's going to be 33 cars. Like, I guess it makes sense. Like, the way things stand, you just need 2, and it sounds like Jacob Abel's going to be one of those 2 with Abel Motorsports. And so really it's like, does Prima or new Prima, I guess, for if they have to rebrand. I'm with you. I don't just run as Prima, but I guess if they're selling them separately, then that creates other hurdles. But anyway, like if this car previously known as Prima can get an entrant in, like obviously that shores it up. I think the interesting thing that you also wrote is that AJ Foyt Racing could also add another car to get us to 33. And so what I know you wrote about it, so I guess I'll let you take it from here. Just what might that look like? Like what might they do? Who might fill that seat if we do get to 33 and it's AJ Foyt Racing's car?
Yeah, that seems like something that is, I don't want to say a worst case scenario, but almost feels like that would only happen if there is no Prima. And I've not been told this directly from anybody at Foyt. That just feels like it feels like if they knew they wanted to be in the race, they would have filed that entry with that third car. Obviously, they already have Caio and Santino, but it feels like if they already knew they wanted to be in it, that would be done by now. But I think they're kind of waiting to see what happens with it. You talked about, how Doug has spoken so much about how he knows there will be 33 cars in the race. I think he knows that because it's kind of like this lineage just fall down where it's IndyCar / Penske Corporation being like, we have to get 33 cars in the race. Then you go down to Team Penske, their technical alliance with AJ Foyt Racing. You could put the dots together there. I think that's how it would all come together because obviously they just wouldn't want there from a executive higher up perspective. They wouldn't want there to be a race that doesn't have 33 cars, and there won't be. I don't think they will be, and I think at the very least that would be what would happen is with AJ Foyt Racing. A name that's been thrown out is Catherine Legg. Once again, I'm not sure how real that is, how not real it is. I know you and I talked a week or two ago just about how coincidentally Larry Foyt was on her podcast. So I don't know if I'm reading too much into that or if that is just something where those two have talked and are trying to potentially set something up if AJ Foyt Racing does want to run that third car. But that seems like the most likely option. I know Juncos has been thrown out in the past. I can confirm they are not planning to enter an extra car, though they're going to stick with their two for the race. And then I've also heard some rumblings of Dale Coyne Racing that I can't confirm or deny. I really have no clue. That's the same team that took forever to announce that Grosjean was going to be back in their seat, right? They keep things pretty tight over there. So I have no clue if that's a real possibility or just kind of things that have been thrown out there. But it definitely feels like if it's not Prima, Foyt would be the most likely option for that team to get that extra car in the race.
Although it felt like Grosjean was kind of the worst kept secret until they announced it. So
right, yeah.
I mean, it was like probably a month or more that we had been hearing that. So and he showed up famously in the back of some social media videos. So I mean, not the most buttoned up, but also Dale said they're going to have their seats filled by Halloween, and they barely had it filled by, or at least they barely had it announced by St. Pete. So maybe, come like 4 p.m. by the deadline, they'll sneak in another entry and we will get bumping. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah, that'd be something. I'm not sure. I mean, I'd have to maybe do some research on this when the latest entry was ever filed, right? When it comes to that day before qualifying. I'm not sure what it's been in the past.
Speaking of bumping, I know when I first started at Indy Star a wee 16 months ago, one of the highlights of the Indy 500 month of May that I had been told and had been billed up to me was bumping and qualifying, and how that was sometimes the best part. And I know last year it was not the best part. There was plenty of drama on qualifying weekend with everything that happened with the Penske cheating scandal and the modified attenuators. But not to rehash that, I do think it's fascinating how much people enjoy bumping, but it seems like Doug is trying to, maybe not Doug, I shouldn't attribute it to him, but it does seem like it's kind of being downplayed and that it's not necessary for a great 500. But if I, as a storyteller, thinking about it, like it does add an extra element of drama that is great for TV and is great for, conversations like this, the one we're having and the ones that are held on social media and Reddit and other podcasts. And I do think it's an underrated storyline of the 500, even though I haven't really witnessed a great one yet, but I guess just what are your thoughts? Like, do you think bumping is like important in the scope of May? Is it important in the scope of the 500? Is it like in terms of the IndyCar calendar? Like, how much of a necessity is it? And like, I don't know. Like for me, I would love to see some of these cars or some of these teams put in an extra car if we get to 34 or 35 to make it a little more exciting.
I definitely think it matters bumping. However, the point I'm trying to make is just like, I don't know why anybody expects it or expects, multiple entries over that 33 number at this point, right? It's been years since we've had that. It's basically the last 5 or 6 years been 34 entries or 33 in some cases. I think 2022 was 33, and it feels like this year might end up being 33 too. So I just think it's important. It's fun. It is exciting. It does add excitement to the race, but it's not essential to the race. And part of what I wrote that you talked about earlier today is just that, look, we're in a situation where in a few weeks here, they're going to announce for the second straight year that the grandstands of the race have sold out. We could get to the point where the GA also sells out. That's what happened in 2016 when the grandstands sold out just about this early. And so when you look at it, it's like, okay, it's not like people are like, no, there's not 35 entries. I don't even want to go to the race. I don't even want to watch the race. Like, no, people are still as excited pretty much as they've ever been to go to this race, to watch this race. And you can attribute that to whatever you want to, Fox, the overall promotion, whatever you want to attribute that to. I'm not exactly sure how or where to pinpoint it, but people want to show up, and people are showing up for the race. And I think most of the people that show up to the race, even last year, if you go back to the people in the grandstands that sold out and you ask, half of them probably couldn't have told you that Jacob Abel got bumped last year. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it is, right? And so bumping matters. I get why the diehard wants it. Diehards want it. I want it, right? Like, I think it is fun. I know you want it. You've talked about it repeatedly, I think both on this podcast and off of it. And it matters, but it's just not essential to the race in the way that many fans want it to be. And I think once we get to 2028, and if IndyCar can actually secure a third engine manufacturer, which has obviously been such a long process with setting up the new car, and then of course for years it's been like, oh, there could be a third manufacturer, but it's been Honda and Chevy since 2012. If there's a chance that they actually do secure a third manufacturer, then I think that opens it up to points where we get to 35, 36 cars that enter into the race. But right now, with the way it's done, with the one chassis, of course, with Dallara and just the two engine manufacturers, I think 33 or 34 every year is kind of where fans should expect to be, because there's just not that same level of want to from teams and the engine manufacturers to give those leases out for there to be a lot of bumping and multiple cars bumped every year.
I do think it's interesting too. Like, there's going to be extra charters in 2028 as well. Yes. With Honda and Chevy. So, like, I guess it's possible in a few years, especially if new Prima or IndyCar team formerly known as Prima, if that ever happens, if there's a sale there and they stick. Like, I do think there's a place where it can naturally grow. So I think you make a valid point. I think the reason why I'm like passionate about wanting bumping is like I feel like we were robbed last year I should say I was robbed because I was sold a bag of goods that didn't live up to the hype. And so I think I just want to experience it because I feel like I haven't. But I do. The other thing you mentioned that I think is really important is ticket sales are going great again. And that they haven't announced anything, but if it's anything like last year, I would expect that there's not going to be a blackout.
Yeah, I'd expect the same here. There's an interesting still process they have to go through with that, but like I don't expect any issues with that. Like I said, I spoke with Doug yesterday downtown at the Marriott as he and Jack Harvey got to sign the IndyCar graphic that's on the hotel, and he said, yeah, they're still on pace to sell out the grandstands first week of May. So that's 2 or 3 weeks away at this point. And that once again the GA could sell out as well. And yeah, assuming that they do get that grandstand sellout, I would expect another lifting of the blackout for the second straight year, or technically the third straight year of the blackout lifting because of the delay that happened in 2024, but the second straight year that it's due to ticket sales.
Maybe In terms of excitement of the month, the Weenie 500 takes over for bumping. How about that?
I saw somebody recommend, I can't remember who tweeted this out, that you put whoever wins the Weenie 500 and give them that extra seat.
In what car, though?
Whichever they want. They could choose the Weenie 500 car or an Indy car, whichever they would prefer.
I would think the Weenie 500 car would be a huge hazard on the track, because those things, I was excited for it last year just because it's a spectacle, as you know, you would have at the greatest spectacle in racing. This was shy of the greatest spectacle, but it was a spectacle nonetheless. I remember one of them started smoking, it looked like, as they were making their way around track, and I was a little concerned. I'm not going to lie, but that's an interesting concept. I don't even know who piloted the Weenie 500 mobiles.
Well, this year, the drivers, they actually spoke at content days. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to remember their names off the top of my head, but we got to see a little bit of their personalities a bit this year. So, I think they might be doing some more media stuff leading into the race this year. So that'll be cool.
All right. Well, I don't know. That was a sidebar thought that just popped in my head. So, anyway, moving on to Long Beach. I don't have a good segue this time. That's that's how my mind works sometimes. I'm just like, oh, what about this? Long Beach. We do have some news as it pertains to this weekend, where they're going to stick with the Fast Six qualifying format they used in Arlington, where they send them out one by one instead of a 6-minute session. So I do think one of the notable changes that you wrote about is whoever is fastest of the 6 advancers, of the 6 who advance out of the Fast 12, whoever is fastest gets to choose when they go. I think that is smart. I think that's a great change to the format. But Fast 6, what do you think?
Yeah, you mentioned the alteration there. I think that was an important change they had to make for this. And it's not just that the best lap of the Fast 12, it goes down subsequently. So if whoever had the best Fast 12 lap says I want to go third, whoever had the second best can say I want to go first, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's a great change. Just because we saw it in Arlington. Marcus Ericsson snuck into the Fast Six and then got to go first and had the best time in the Fast Six. And, who knows what would have happened had he had to go last or in a different position. But it's just like Alex Palou, who had the best time in Fast Six, or in Fast 12 rather, barely got beat out by Ericsson in his Fast Six time. But Palou had to sit there and his tires got cold and brakes got cold and everything. And, that definitely impacted things. So I think it's the right change. Also, another change is that all the drivers now will have to line up at pit out once they make their tire selection, rather than them coming from pit lane and coming from their spot. And it makes the process quicker, and also gives the tires a more even or similar temperature as you're sitting there at pit out. So that's the difference as well. So yeah, I like the alterations they made. This should be, as we talked about after Arlington, this should be a great TV event. We need those sector times. We need them. Like I know it's a shared responsibility between Fox and IndyCar. It's not just all on Fox. IndyCar has to get those sector times to Fox, be able to time those out to really make it as fun as it should be on TV, because without the sector times, it's just like, cool, but what's happening? It's like, okay, you see the cars going around, but you're like, who is winning right now? You have zero clue. So we need those. But overall, I think it's a good change and something to, be excited about, right? It'll be throughout the street races going forward. So, of course, this weekend, and then it'll be in Detroit, Markham, and DC with this single car Fast Six qualifying. I think most drivers will be happy about it.
The 1.968 mile, 11 turn streets of Long Beach. A lot of 2-time winners, which I think is interesting. Another interesting note is everyone in the field except the rookies have started here. So a pretty familiar course for everyone. Kyle Kirkwood won from pole last year. He won in 2023. Dixon won in 2024 and 2015. Newgarden won in 22. Rossi in 18 and 19. And Will Power. Will Power had a lot of success early in his career at this track. He won it in 2008 and won it in 2012 and was pole the 3 years in between. So a lot of history to go off of at Long Beach. What are you expecting, or what do you want to see by the time we talk this time next week?
I'm very curious in the tire allotment this weekend. And I know that's kind of been the theme of every street and road course this year. But with the new rules, you have to run 2 sets of those softs rather than just one. It changes quite a bit. Like I rewatched last year's race earlier this week, and teams could not wait to go back to those primary tires after the first handful of laps. Like I think Joseph Newgarden kind of was the first to do it, and then everybody else followed suit for the most part. Well, now we have a race in a scenario where you have to go back to those tires at some point, right? So this is clearly a course that the teams feel like is better on those primaries, but you have to go to those alternates for 2 sets rather than just that one that we had in the rulebook last year. And seeing how teams and their strategists really handle that, to me, is going to be the fascinating part of this race and truly could decide who wins it.
Yeah. Well said. I don't have a whole lot to add. I just think it's interesting to me what this weekend's going to look like after a couple of weeks off. Because March is just so, like, it was just so, I feel like you probably got into a pretty good rhythm, right? Like you're on a week and then you have a short week and then you've got an extra day of rest theoretically before Arlington. And then you had a week off and then you're racing again. And so like I think when you get into one of those flows, there's not like, I don't know like how much certainly you can make changes, but like, can you make wholesale changes? And so now you get an extra week off, you have some time to like readjust quite a bit. So I'm just curious, like we saw, I think a lot in the first 4 races. Like Will Power had high points and low points. He's someone who's had success at Long Beach. Kyle Kirkwood has looked brilliant. At least in Arlington, he looked excellent. And so he's coming back to a place where he dominated last year and won it in 2023. So like, I don't know. I'm curious to see like what adjustments were made, because like fresh in my mind still is like Kirkwood in Arlington, like, and knowing that he has the track history at Long Beach, you can tell where I'm leaning to make a pick. But like, I don't know, like who can beat him? Like, I feel like he's the guy to beat.
Yeah, certainly. When you look at it, like whenever you go to a track that Alex Palou hasn't won at yet, it's like, okay, now we got to kind of recalibrate here. And then it's a track that, like you said, Kirkwood's won 2 of the last 3 at. He had the performance he had in Arlington. Like he is clearly comfortable on all the street courses, but specifically this one is kind of one where he's had a lot of success at. So I definitely think he's the guy to beat. He's still the championship leader by 2 points. So he is the guy to beat. I think he is the favorite in the betting markets, which I could be wrong. Like we'll see how it goes, I guess, throughout the rest of the season. This might be the only race all year that Alex Palou doesn't enter as the betting favorite. And that just shows how good Kyle Kirkwood has been here and how much, even from a, analytic perspective, it looks like this is the driver to beat at this specific course.
Well, I can't pick the favorite.
Pick whoever you want.
Yeah, I think, Long Beach has such a rich tradition with the series and this race. And I didn't look up a pronunciation, so I'm hoping I don't botch his name. But like, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Jim McKellian, who died last month at age 83, the CEO and president of the race. And that's another interesting part. Obviously, I won't be there. You will, but I'm curious to see like how they honor and recognize him this weekend.
That's a good point, right? We had a similar situation with George Barber just a couple weeks ago at Barber, and he had just passed, I believe, in January or either late January or early February. And a similar thing to him, you talk about Jim. He's somebody who had literally been involved with this race from its inception in 1975. Worked his way up, I think, in either 2000 or 2001 was when he became president and CEO and was headed towards stepping down and being in a new role with Penske Entertainment. So, yeah, very curious to see how they honor him. Nathan Brown had talked to Jim just last year just about what it meant to set up this race and then just be a part of sustaining the race. This is the second longest running American open wheel race behind the 500, right? Like, this is clearly they've found the formula out there in Long Beach, and Jim was a big part of setting that up. So, yeah, definitely rest in peace to him, and hopefully that I know he'll be honored in some way. Hopefully he's honored well throughout the weekend.
Yeah, the 42nd IndyCar race here and the 51st auto racing event held at Long Beach. So that's quite a legacy. I'm ready to make picks. Are you?
Yeah. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it. And then I'll, maybe pick someone different. We'll see.
I was definitely tempted to pick Kyle Kirkwood. I think, anybody who picks him is not a fool for doing so. And before I make my official pick, I will say I'm watching for the two higher up Arrow McLaren drivers in Lundgaard and Award. Lundgaard made it to the podium in this race last year after crashing and qualifying and being on a backup car. Right, that proves just how good he is at this course. And once again, we've seen him have his most success in street races throughout his career. And then you look at Pato O'Ward, it's just about, can he recover from his worst finish of the year so far at Barber and just what wasn't a great weekend for him. But I'm not picking either of them. I am going to actually pick the champion, Alex Palou, to win his second straight race and third of the year. I think he finally gets it done in Long Beach, right, and finally gets his first win here and takes over the championship lead from Kyle Kirkwood in doing so.
Gosh, I was going to build up the papayas too, so that was part of my pitch. But you already did that for me. I picked Pato going into Barber, or no, yeah, I think so. Just because he had been running top 5 those 3 races, and then he didn't have a great race in Alabama, and so I feel a little bit betrayed. But I still have great belief in Pato. However, I'm not going to go with the papayas. I am going to take the cop out and go with the favorite and take Kyle Kirkwood. I just think his car in Arlington left such an impression, and the way, not just that, like, his car was so great, but he also battled through like a pretty poor start to the weekend, and even the start to the race was not great. Like, they, I believe they had some problems on pit row, and so I just think he's been really good, and like, really, it's not just Arlington, but like, he ran really well early in the year last year too on street courses, and so I'm just kind of going to lean on that recency bias and that recent history, and I'm gonna take Kirkwood. But the other person I'm really fascinated to see is Will Power. Like, his start to we've talked about it every episode, I feel like, but his start to the year, he didn't start till January 1st, so you're behind the 8 ball already, working with a new team. Things did not go well, and then they did go well, and then they didn't go well, and so now that, like, I think this couple weeks break is probably going to help him a lot more than maybe anybody, even though he's a veteran driver, and as I mentioned earlier, he has a lot of success here at Long Beach. So I'm curious to see how he does, how much he pushes it early in the weekend, and I guess something about Andretti, huh?
First of all, I'm going to plug in the podcast feed and the YouTube channel. Will Power interview is out now, so go listen to that to hear more about him and his pursuit of winning again in Long Beach and just going into May with his new team. But yeah, he's still yet to have a weekend where Friday, Saturday, Sunday just goes smoothly for him. Even when he got to the podium in Arlington, once again, that Andretti Global team with all 3 of those cars in Arlington had some pit issues, and so they're looking to clean that up for sure this weekend in another street race. But yeah, and then you go back to Barber last week, or the last race a few weekends ago, and the brake failure that caused them to start all the way back in 23rd. So it's just been like weird. It's been like, you've seen the flashes from that 26 car and from Will Power, but between maybe mistakes he's made or mistakes made by that Andretti Global team. It hasn't been fully put together, but it's kind of just a matter of like, can they put it all together to get him his first win with the team, whether it's this weekend or whether it's further down the line. It's like, when will that happen? So yeah, I mean, that team between Kirkwood and Power and even Ericsson, just him trying to get back to the level where we'd been used to seeing him at before he joined Andretti, right? All three drivers, all three cars kind of have their own separate storylines throughout the season. So curious to see how the story continues with that team this weekend.
Yeah. You plugged Will Power, interview guest, on the YouTube page, but also Ryan Hunter-Reay.
Yes.
Your conversations with Doug Bowles. There are many conversations that are also on the YouTube page, IndyCar TV, IndyStar TV, IndyCar. Gosh dang it. That's a lot. It doesn't even rhyme. It's just repetitive. But IndyStar TV, IndyCar page. Zion's doing a great job. He has recaps of practice, qualifying, race day, behind the scenes from the medical interviews. He does a little bit of everything. There's a lot for people to enjoy. Of course, we upload the podcast there as well as Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So please go to the YouTube page, like it, subscribe to it. It's free to subscribe. It just means you see the videos in your feed more often, and it helps us out greatly. The support goes a long way into allowing Zion to do more of this and get the behind the scenes footage and talk to people and share more of the stories that IndyCar fans love. And so a heart of gratitude from me, especially if you do, but also Zion's doing great work and is worth checking out. So this has been the Long Beach / Indy 500 update edition of the Inside Line IndyCar Podcast presented by IndyStar. Zion, enjoy Long Beach.
Thank you. I will.
Awesome. We'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks for listening, and find everything on IndyStar.com and IndyStar TV IndyCar YouTube page.